How do you get there? Have you ever traveled somewhere new by road and your dad was driving? I mean, before Google Maps or without an internet connection? Well, I have, and I'll tell you how it goes. We'll start off with some form of address. P-Man would know the area or an area nearby the area. Emphasis on area. Then we'll take off. Everything would be fine till he's not sure where he is. Now, that's not the crazy part. What's funny is that every man seems to think they are some navigator, Ferdinand Magellan. They don't like to ask questions. So good time and money, as in fuel or tips, would have been wasted before you'd see them slow down. Roll down the window on mom's side, bend a little, and ask the man sitting by the kiosk, "Hey, my brother, I'm looking for this place near..." Bro, you can be different. Please be different. Getting anywhere is a function of plans and iterations. Yeah, that's about it. You're welcome to the glide. Hello, Cynthia. How are you doing?
Very well, very, very well. How are you doing today?
I'm good, guys. I would introduce her myself, but I just want you to hear what she'd say. Right? I want you to hear it from her yourself. So, Cynthia, what do you do?
Okay, so to put it in simple form, one is I'm a startup founder. I'm the CEO and founder of Diabuki Africa, a leather tech startup focused on supporting local leather artisans, otherwise known as abukis on the streets, right? And yeah, we've been doing that for 4 years in Abuja, but 8 years as an individual pursuing this vision. So when I'm not being a founder or a CEO, managing teams, I also support incubators and accelerator programs in Africa, either as a startup mentor, startup, like a lecturer, come teach on certain topics. So when I'm not doing that, you find me on several platforms doing startup education, either writing articles or creating videos that can, just break down concepts that are not very taught. They're not very real. They're not common, right? Not commonly taught in the ecosystem. So yeah, that's pretty much. But everything is just centered around supporting startups and me doing the startup thing as a person.
You see, guys, in summary, she saves lives. But yeah, today we'll be exploring the pathway to one's best self, pathway to your best self, the all-important how, the means that justifies the end. With regards attaining success, making it big in career or business, I figure that many are not oblivious. They prevalently are just unsure or unstructured. So I don't think it's a case where they don't know where they want to go, completely. There's always this thing where people have an idea of where they're headed, with regards to career or business. But, how do I do it? And that's what we're going to be tackling today.
Awesome.
And see, we already heard it. You heard it from her. So she's a proper entrepreneur and advisor. So this is right up her alley. So Cynthia, could you unpack this for us? I have this question. Okay. Why is there a disconnect between dreams people have for themselves and where they are now? Many are in spaces or places right now and they're thinking, I'm meant to be somewhere else, I'm meant to be doing this great thing or that great thing. But why is there a disconnect? What do you think?
It's just a very, very brilliant question, because I feel like every single person can relate to this, because at one point in our lives we have a vision, we have something we want to do, but there's just this gap, right, between what we have in our heads versus what is supposed to come into reality. And it can be due to a number of things, right? One, I believe, is knowledge, right? Most times the reason why okay, maybe let's even start from the very beginning. There could be the fear of starting, right? Fear can be a very big hindrance.
I know that one. I know that one. I'm familiar.
Fear, like, it can be a very big hindrance. And I realized that the solution to the problem of fear is knowledge, right? So most times the reason why we're afraid to do what we need to do is because we don't even know what to do. So we're unclear, first of all, about what it is we're supposed to do. So if we actually know what it is we're supposed to do, then that fear, if it's at 95%, it will come down to like 30%, all right? And 30% can be due to like other factors that can be addressed, maybe access to the equipment or the tools you need, just so that one can be solved. But that knowledge part is super big. Like, if you can know what it is you're supposed to do, if you can know like the step by step, you can actually get to your final destination. But I also feel like, not many, so there's not a lot of content or teaching around that gap between where you are and where you are going to. So
where you want to be, right?
So there's a lot of storytelling about that gap, and the thing about storytelling is that someone can just come like, have a passion, have a dream, and go at it. Like they motivate you with their stories. Yes. I know that for sure because that I have a podcast where we tell startup stories, right? So I bring these people on board, and they share their stories, and it's just so amazing. But then it's something you realize is
you guys should check this thing out. It's gold.
And there's something you realize is that they're summarizing 5 years into 1 hour. They're summarizing 2 months, 6 months of work into like 20 minutes. And the detailed steps that they actually took, like the step-by-step decisions that they took, is not something that you can find out there. And so that's where the disconnect is, because the one that is very popular, the things that are very popular, like the stories, like if you hear the story of Bill Gates, you hear the story of Mark Zuckerberg, like he felt like he did everything right, like he knew what he was supposed to do. But most times,
there's like how.
There's a how, right? And that how is not popular. And so I think, it may seem like I'm using this as an opportunity to talk about the course, but I feel like when someone puts together like a structured class, it helps. It's good we have all these Instagram snippets, right? 31 minutes of motivation, 1 minute of, but it's very different from like a structured environment. And I say that because I went through a structured environment and I saw the impact of it. I did a master's program on entrepreneurship, innovation, and management. And it was a very, there was a lot we learned a lot. But I realized that by me, like the fact that I went through that actually helped me, because now I know what to do at certain situations, because I know the tools that are required. I know the information that I need to latch onto, right, at this stage, because you realize that every single thing is similar. Like every person's story is similar. That's why you hear this thing around, stories have like a framework in a sense where there's the hero, there is a bad guy. So you just realize that no matter how the story is framed, whether it's Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, there's just this similar framework that everybody can now build on. So everybody's lives, everybody's story is a build on like a foundational template. And so what you do with courses and classes, structured classes, is that you are now given the foundation, right, where you can now build your story on top. Right, so that's now what makes the difference between other people's story and our stories, right? So in summary, right, the difference between what we're really passionate about and the reality of it is knowledge, and it's not just knowledge from multiple YouTube stories and YouTube videos and multiple Instagram snippets. It's like sitting down, being tutored, in a classroom. Another way is also being tutored by a mentor, right, who has actually done it, right? So what you need is like the access to that practical step-by-step step-by-step like process and sets of decisions, right? So yeah, getting access to a mentor who has done it before can save you a whole lot of mess. I know that for sure, because I know certain mistakes I made in the business that, I shouldn't have even made it if I had access to my mentor early on, right? Because he had already gone through that and he came up with his own template, and all I had to do was just copy and paste, and that would have made a whole lot of difference. I believe I answered the question, right?
Yes, you have for sure. Even gave me this proper segue, because I actually just signed up for Cynthia's course. And yeah, guys, all you guys thinking about money now, it's actually free. So she's going to be teaching us, how to do this startup thing, right? Regardless of where you're at, I filled the form, and you could see, regardless of where you're at, whether you're just starting out, whether you are looking for funding, or wherever you're at with regards, your business, and also it cuts across many industries, you could sign up and get help for free. I don't know what else to call it but a woof, but yeah, you should check it out. I think I will drop links in the podcast description, and yeah, you can find your way to get some help. Thank you so much, Cynthia. But this makes me think, right? So you've worked with so many people, and obviously they would have at some point, let you know, okay, this is what I'm trying to do, this is where I'm trying to go. Have you ever met someone and you just thought to yourself, guy, this is your dream, safe. Please go and dream again, because like it's either it's like too big, when somebody's somewhere and then the person is telling you some kind of and like, how, bro? You understand? Like, so it just made me think: should our dreams and goals, should they be somewhat realistic, or can we just go wild? Because this is what we hear all the time. Reach for the what now?
Stars,
the stars,
yeah.
and in case you don't get there, you can land on the clouds. And so, should we just as far as we can see, or should it be measured?
So it's a really good question, because I see that every day. I reach pitch decks. I join incubator programs and accelerator programs as a mentor, and our job is supposed to help direct founders, right? I think it's a mixture of both, right? You need the vision to keep going, because moments where you feel like giving up, the vision can actually stir up like this passion in you and give you like this sense of purpose. So you need that vision. You need that, this is where we're actually going. Because even when you're going to speak to your staff, they need to know that that there's somewhere to go to, right?
Right.
But you also need the measured, step by step, what to do now information. Like, you need that as well, right? Because if you even think about it in terms of, I'm going to, this is God is telling Abraham, right? Look at the stars. That's your generation. But he had to start with Isaac, right? He had to start with Isaac and the children that he was going to support. He said, like, I know I can hand over like this to Abraham, because I know he's going to train up his children. Like, he knew that Abraham could do the small one now. So yes, right. One of the things I see myself doing, and this is something that happens, I actually had a call with like some founders yesterday. It was almost like they felt demoralized because they had this big picture that they wanted to do. It was such a very big thing. But by the time they started having conversations with me and, a friend of mine who is also an incredible person in the VC space, and, we're having the chat with them, it almost felt like they should just give up, because, what they were aiming for seems unreachable, right? Now, this is what ideation does. Like, when you have a big vision, you need to start, this whole process of like the ideation process. So, one of the things I'm going to be teaching at the course is the startup roadmap. Now, when it comes to a startup, like, this is based on research. Like, every single company is similar, right? There's a beginning, there's the middle, and there's the end, right? So the startup roadmap, there is the start phase, there is the scale phase, and there is the sustain phase. So at the start phase, there are things you should be focusing on. You're not supposed to focus on things that are in the sustain phase. David will say, I don't get myself worked up in things that are too wonderful for me. So like you're at the start phase and you're already thinking about some things that are in the scale phase. So what you're supposed to do is to understand, okay, what are the decisions that need to be made today? So in the case of like a founder, like a business, it's like, what are the most important things I need to focus on today? So the things in the start phase are the things you need to focus on now. When you're done with that, you go to the next one. You can't jump the gun, right? So you can't jump. So there's a phase. So you get involved in what needs to be done today, and then find yourself going towards it. The ones in the future later on.
All right. So there's this thing that just came to mind as you were speaking about jumping the gun. So it's like if you jump, you still drop, right? You can still, fall. But if you grow, like you stay there. There's this steady. Once there's steady growth, and you're going to keep, you're going to stay there.
Absolutely.
And
I want to
say, well, it's hard, Sha.
I want to add to that, because that is so true. Because if you take the conversation I had with the founders yesterday, they thought they could reach for the stars, but they realized that star that they're looking at is unreachable, because there are smaller problems that have not been solved in the industry, and what they're going to what they had in mind to present to the industry would not work if the foundational problems have not been solved. So
we're not fixed.
So take, for example, someone has a vision to build. Let me even use the most common, the one that we ever know. I was going to go back in time, but let's even use this one. Someone has a vision to build electric cars. There are things you need before you can have a full electric car, right? If you don't have those things, you can't build an electric car. So I don't know how the electric car, but I'm just going to guess, right? So maybe like the engine of the electricity, how the electricity is supposed to flow. There has to be technology that probably have been patented, or like they have patents on it, or someone must have developed something somewhere that you can latch onto, or you need to even develop something, then put all those small pieces together before you can have the full electric car. You need to have, so if you go back in time, say an automobile, then when it just came out, you need to have tires. You need to have the idea of a seat. You need to have the steering. Like there are small bits and pieces that other people need to invent, and you probably need to put together.
Have to,
or you need to even start building first, in the hopes that other people will develop theirs, and then you can join that with yours, and you can now have the full vision for that industry. So if I use my company as an example, Africa, we have a vision, for the entire leather industry, which is to scale certain areas like in the industry. But we know that we can't do that now. First of all, we don't even have all the money. Even if we have all the money, if we try solving that problem, if we try bringing that idea to pass, we will come back to square one, because we'll be faced with the same challenge that is preventing that innovation. There's a reason why that innovation has not popped up yet. It's not because you're the only one that is not thinking about it, because there are smaller problems that have not been solved. So why don't you just solve the smaller problems, and build on to that vision? So those are my thoughts.
Well, I'm hearing, breaking things down, and I'm hearing collaboration as well. So I think there's this thing, and I think myself, some like an entrepreneur to an extent, because there's this, I'll call it an entrepreneurial spirit. You know how you just want to start things. There's just an itch to start something new, and like you just have like an influx of ideas. Like for me, it's a thing where I could have 2-3 ideas, and I start on, you have an idea, and then there's this adrenaline rush, and then you just what can I do about this and this and this, and then it gets to the part where maybe you hit a roadblock, and okay, what about this other idea? And then you literally leave it alone. And like that's the thing I know about entrepreneurs. Like there's always a new idea, always something to do. And I think from what you're saying, if one could picture, like you say, the stars, and okay, for me to get there, I need, this step and that step and that step. And in your breaking your entire vision into little, small, I think they call them SMART goals, and then also involving people, because a lot of the time when you have a vision that big, you may not be able to do yourself. I think I say may because I'm trying to be modest, but I don't think anyone is able or will be able to actualize massive. So imagine a Bezos thinking about Amazon the way it is now. There's no way he could have done it himself. Do you understand? Or say even in career, because I guess like there's just been a person business like in the past couple of years, but even in career, you have to leverage on the knowledge of people of your counterparts. Okay, how do you do this? How do we do this better and all that? So I could hear that really loudly as you're speaking, breaking things down to the smallest achievable minimums and, reaching out to people, hey, I'm doing this. Do you get, like, I think what you're doing could help, or I think you can help me do this, or, so yeah, that collaboration as well. And yeah, that brings me to, I guess that's the last question, right? So now the thing is, we know that, it may be Herculean, but if it's broken down, it's achievable, right? Whatever the goal or the dream is, right? But I would just like you to, if you could maybe give some generalistic tips, something that, people could just think about, like, okay, something easy, like, how can we then plan, how do you set up effective plans? Like, generally, do you get, like, okay, I'm trying to go here, like, do you have like tips to help people generally plan? Do you understand? Like, I don't know how to better frame the question, but I'm hoping you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. That's a really good question, because it's, how will I put this? We're always going to be in a situation where we have to get stuff done, right? And planning is that phase before the job is actually done. But before I answer the question, the topic of collaboration, just want to add, even Apple is dependent on many manufacturers to actually get the Apple device.
Samsung screens.
Yeah. Like, they depend on so many manufacturers. I mean, that's even one of the things that Tim Cook is looking at, how he could reduce the dependencies, right? But you definitely need to collaborate, with people. So yeah, now to the planning. So this is not specific, because when it comes to building a startup, there is a plan. Like, there's an already existing template of how you should go about starting a company. Okay. Which is what I'm definitely going to teach at the SDC course. But what you want me to answer is just generally, right? When you want to get something.
Yes, yeah.
So, this is literally like this morning. I was on a call with my PA, and we're planning for SDC and things to do. And there's this thing I always do, which is if there's a project, I call it like a project. Like, okay, SDC is a project. There's a duration. There's the beginning and there's the end, right? So you start from what is the first thing that needs to be done. So when I think about SDC, there were things I needed to get done. One is I needed to understand how I was going to structure the classes, right? Because last year's structure was very different. It's very different from what it is. So there was that place of like, meditation on what would that look like, right? Then there is the phase after, which is conversations with, marketing and graphic design to see how we can, bring this to life. There is the where we're going to display, the course that we're going to put out for people to sign up, like the sign up phase, and what happens during the sign up phase, what are the deliverables under the sign up phase. So it's like breaking it down into modules. So in that module, there are a module has like a timeline attached to it, right? And then in that module, there are now like smaller bits of the of will I say concepts or ideas under that. So if I say SDC, right, it's now like, okay, the sign up phase, the onboarding phase, the lecture, you get, so like modules. And then in the sign up phase, they're not like things to do on, they're not like concept under that, right? What's going on in that smaller, what's going on in that sign up phase. So you have these deliverables, and then you now begin to say, okay, these are the things we need to create for us to achieve the goal of this particular phase, this sub phase or,
Right.
sub project, right? So these are deliverables. We need to get the form link ready. We need to get the seller link ready. We need to get the Telegram platform ready. We need to create this. We need to just get, so you have this from big chunks to smaller bits and pieces with timelines attached to that. I feel like when any individual engages in that activity, it already clears your head, and getting the job done becomes much more easier, because at times we feel like there's a lot of things that we need to do, and so we're actually unclear about what we need to really do. So when I get into that phase, because that can happen very frequently. If obviously every individual, think about Dangote, do you know how many things he needs to do? Right. So every individual at that point, as you grow, there's going to be like a lot of things that you engage with. There's a lot of things you need to do. So you need to engage in this exercise as frequently as possible. So doing things like, or maybe during the day, you realize that, I need to get some things done. Don't leave it in your head. You might forget. Have like a to-do list, like an app, a reminder app on Apple, to-do list. There's so many apps that help you document your ideas.
I Notion. People are calling Notion a second brain now. So
exactly. So I don't use Notion. I feel like this is complex for me. The other is that's just my opinion.
It is.
It's a big complex, for me. So I just like something simple. I just want to have a list of things I need to get done. Right? Yeah. So if you have that, so you carry that with you every time. You have like maybe at the beginning of your day, you know that, okay, let's build a list for today. And your list is based on a bigger list. So you have your modules. You're like, okay, this is the things I need to focus on. So today, what am I supposed to get done that is related to what I said I was going to achieve for the month? Right? So everything is now connected. And if you start doing this and you create a habit of doing this, no project can get undone because you always know what to do, which is now back to what I said earlier about knowledge. Once you know what to do, it becomes easier.
Yeah. You can move.
It becomes easier. So, yeah.
Wow. Like it's mad how you'd listen to somebody so a great in some respects, and you would ask them, how did you do this? How did you do that? I don't know if you've ever noticed, but they always seem to boil down to some very simple steps, and like, is that it? I don't know, like I felt like that so many times, people that I'm looking up to in different fields or, different respects, and then you ask them, what do you do? How did you get here? And then they just tell you one basic thing, like, I wake up every morning by the same time, I wear the same clothes every day, and I eat the same food, or I shall do these particular things every day by this time. It's like, that's it. That's how you blew. And I think there's just a sense that generally, because people are great, or because we see great things being done by many people, we think there's something really extra, extraordinary that they do. And I reckon, even just listening here, maybe we are reading the extraordinary wrong. I don't think it's something in some sense extraordinary, like out of this world. I think what they do is they personal, like they take they take the ordinary things really personal, and then they push it so far. Like they decide to be consistent at doing the barest minimum, right? So like you say, somebody waking up at the exact same time every single day. Somebody wearing, once I said wearing the same clothes every single day, I just thought about Steve Jobs. And one would think like it, and it's very simple because he doesn't want to have to wake up in the morning and start thinking of what to wear. So it saves time to wear the same thing every single day. So that, like, all them basic mundane things, right? But I think it's the power of repetition, So because we asked how to get from where we are to where we need to be, and how to are our dreams too big and stuff like that. And I'm just hearing, if you break anything down, to the smallest possible chunk, you find that you can actually do this thing, but you just have to repeat. Like you have to repeat. Wow. So
yeah, to that particular the last question, just to add would be, So just like I said earlier, right? It is true that there are like the basic things that, just like you said, they pushed, right? But it's the basic things. It's pretty much the same thing, right? Obviously, when a big person is telling you, when you ask a question, I mean, you have probably maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes to talk to a big person like Dangote, and he cannot tell you every single thing, right? Obviously. But which is one of the reasons why I'm doing startup stories, because I want to catch them now that they have time to tell me the details, not when they've blown. Right, and then you can't even book appointment. Or even if you book the appointment, they can't talk for more than 30 minutes, that kind of thing. Okay, so there's that part. That's just off topic. But yeah, so there's the template. Back to what I said, right? There's a template. There's the basic thing that is required of every human, any productive human. Then the extra piece on top is like what makes that human different. So, for example, there's a basic idea of, it's always important, in order for you to be productive, to have a to-do list, right? Always have a to-do list. To-do list is super important. But the extra piece on top is how a person looks at a problem and interprets a project or interprets a situation. And that works. Now that's what makes it different, right? So there is something unique. Okay. There's a way I think, right? When I look at a project, like there's a way I think maybe because of my past experience, the consultancy experience that I have, project management experience. So now when I'm looking at a piece, right, it's like I'm already seeing the smaller bits and pieces, right? Another person may look at a piece in that same sense, but he looks at it in different light. So I'm not trying to. What I'm saying is, like, every single person who is successful, there's something extra that is unique to them that they brought to the table, in addition to the mundane to-do list. And we cannot negate that fact, because there is something insightful that we can actually gain from how they look at things, right? That in addition to the normal level, another person will do that normal level and not achieve the same result as that other person. So yeah, just thought to bring that up. The point I was trying to make was that there is the mundane thing, right, which is a normal to-do list, but there's also that extra bit on top that is worth looking at. Just that extra bit that is unique to the individual in question that we can actually learn from.
Oh, Cynthia, bless your soul. That was really insightful. I guess you get it now. In all you do, for all you do, it map things out, right? All that talk about productivity, plans and scheduling, business, career and work, we have reinforced the obvious. Life is tough. And just like it said,